What's up? What's up? Oh my gosh. I have been struggling with all sorts of AV issues, so I am very sorry that I'm starting late. Um, I know computer had to reboot a few times to recognize my monitor or any peripherals. So, yeah, we're diving into some Sparkle today. I've got a few things to tackle. I think what we're going to do is make a refactor to our tool. Where we got left off yesterday is we created, and I'll walk through it before we get started. We created a very basic search tool using the SERP API, which is a fantastic API for like searching Google and getting all sorts of results back, different kinds of results. Super awesome, great tool. So we played around with that. We put together some very basic search. I want to refine that just a little bit, and then I want to make a refactor to how we're defining tools. Right now it's this like two-step process where we define the tool and then we give it the class that it's going to use for the functionality. But I kind of want to reimagine it in a way that we could have like self-contained tools so that it would be really easy for someone to publish an open source package for a much more in-depth search tool or a RAG tool or anything else, and then it just really be this self-contained class that we can call, the with tools method on the agent and just pass that tool into the array. I've got a couple avenues we can go at that, so we're going to kind of explore and see what feels good, and then I think we're just going to dive into starting to build out the Anthropic provider. Right now, I've got an OpenAI provider. I'd really like to provide Anthropic next, and they also handle defining and returning function calls, like tool calls, much different than OpenAI, and I want to deal with that. And the reason why I want to prioritize doing that before I release anything is I'm expecting there to be some churn in the API for how we define and call tools. We may not, but my abstraction right now is really just based around assumptions from the OpenAI functionality. So I want to kind of get as much API churn out of the way as possible before I release like the initial iteration on GitHub. Even though I'm not planning on releasing it at 1.0, I still don't want people to start playing with this and then all of a sudden I have like an update that totally changes the way we do something, and now anything you were experimenting with is not going to work. So let's just go ahead and dive into some of this. Cool. Let's get some music going too. All right, cool. So let's take a look at where we left off yesterday. Let me pop open Web UI, kick it over to the stream display. All right, so with our search tool, let's just take a look at what that looks like, right? Let's go to GPT-4o. These are like two agents that I have defined in my day-to-day use Laravel application. It also kind of serves as like an example application for what we can do with Sparkle, but this is actually like, these are the agents that I use like day in and day out. I have a couple more defined, but I haven't finished converting those over to the new Fluent API. They're still on the old, I guess what I'm calling V2, and the new Fluent API is what I'm calling V3. So these two Nova ones are the ones that I converted over to the V3 API. One is running GPT-4, one's running GPT-4o. The one that's using 4o is not hooked up to a tool. So let's take a look at what we have as a result, just to kind of compare what the difference is with the tool and without the tool. So let's just ask it, what's the latest version of Laravel? Because this should I'm thinking this should return Laravel 10. All right, cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. Based on the date cutoffs, we're getting Laravel 10. Hey, Moss, come on. Got a dog drinking out of the cat water. Gotta get them out of that. All right, so right, so we're getting Laravel 10. Let's now go ask the GPT-4. Actually, I think we can do something really cool with Open Web UI. They actually allow you to add multiple models. So let's just go ahead and like re-ask this question with both models attached, and we should be able to compare the response between the two. And we see the GPT-4 is taking a little bit longer. That's the one that's actually hooked up to the search tool. And so we're seeing here that this one's returning Laravel 11 and GPT-4o is returning Laravel 10, which is totally what I expected to happen. And I want to kind of add a little piece to the prompt here so we get a little extra output. So let's do that real quick because I think we can do that with relative ease. So let's go in here and take a look at the app service provider. Oh, we've got a big Pete joining us here. I'm gonna have to kick him off here in a second because he's just gonna nuzzle his way into everything. Pete. I don't know. If you don't know, I have a zoo at the house. We have 4 cats and 5 dogs. I also have an 11-year-old son. He's at school. But yeah, this is Big Pete, Big Peter. I'm gonna kick him off. Kind of Big Pete, big guy. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got going on here. You know, in the intro, I talked about how this is defined in 2 parts, and I kind of want to solidify, like I want to unify it all into one thing where we have our tool definition, which we're passing here to our GPT-4 version of Nova. And then we have like the additional functionality here, which is like the search tool itself. Something super basic that we built up. This really is like not an ideal way of handling it, but we only had like an hour on stream yesterday, and so this is what we were able to throw together on stream. We kind of build up the search query for the search tool, and then we just kind of filter through to get the organic results, which is like a result type of the response that we get back from the SERP API. They also return things like locations, some images, all sorts of stuff. Definitely, if you have to do programmatic Google searching, highly recommend the SERP API. Like I said, and then what we're doing is we're just distilling this down to the link, like the result title and the result link, and then we're just returning that as JSON. I kind of want to do something a little different here just to kind of flex the system a little bit, get us a little bit better results. And then I also want to jump into Nova V2, drop down here, and I added this in a little bit earlier. And the thing is, like we didn't get that in the output here. I bet if we let's drop the 4.0 and do this again. It's tough to get consistency with prompting sometimes, because what I'm expecting here is to get an additional message saying that Nova used the search tool. And we're not getting that in here. And I've got this in the prompt that like, hey, if Nova uses a tool, she'll always tell me what tools are available. We're not getting that. So I'm going to see if, you know, we can maybe change this up, not if, and say, we could also just say like Nova, oops. Yeah, this prompt is pretty crazy. All right, let's try sending this request again. Hey, awesome. I got a question in chat. What editor is this? It's not VS Code. This is like what I use is Tmux, and then inside of Tmux, I have NeoVim. So this is like a setup that I've been using for many years. There are parts of my Vim setup and like NeoVim configuration that I've had defined, like especially a lot of my key maps that I've had defined for probably 8 years or more. I did about 4.5-ish years ago. I took a year off of NeoVim and Tmux, outside of server administration. Took a year off and used VS Code. Was a big fan. If you want to work on dialing in VS Code, especially for PHP, go check out Caleb Porzio's course on making VS Code awesome. It is a fantastic course. You'll learn a lot about customization and like tuning it in, especially for PHP. His better PHP unit plugin for VS Code is also prime. And then look forward to the first party Laravel plugin that's coming out for VS Code. The new first party Laravel plugin for VS Code that's coming out has got me thinking about going back to VS Code and recustomizing it to get it to where I like it, to try it out again. So yeah, definitely check those two things out for like getting VS Code dialed in. If I do circle back around to VS Code, I'll definitely put together a video walking through my VS Code configuration and kind of show y'all how I have that set up. And cool, we do have a little bit of response here that's saying, hey, I used the search tool for this result, which is great. So we're coming back as Laravel 11. We're getting some additional messaging around search tools. What I'd love to do is dive a little bit more into Open Web UI and see if there's a way that I can display in the UI like some sort of dialog box or something that's like, hey, here's the search tool I used and here's the references. Let's see if this gives me a little bit more context. I'm just curious if this is going to work. All right, cool. So it used specifically the GitHub page. Let's see. All right, let's see if we get a little bit better results. And if you want to see prompting on this level, kind of like what we're seeing with Nova, this is like a pretty wild prompt. Check out collaborative-dynamics.ai. In my opinion, they are at the absolute forefront of prompt engineering, and this is a decently customized version of the version that you can purchase from them. Highly recommend checking them out as well. Let's go back and see our response. Oops. Functions.search. Okay. All right. I mean, I guess we're getting like a little bit better results. Let's see if we can customize this a little bit better. Let's see if we get a little bit different response, something that's kind of calls them out and is perfect. And I think we could also add in this is a little bit closer to what I was hoping to get. Hey, all right, cool. I like this. I'm going to roll with this. We get a nice link off to Laravel releases. So we know that search is hooked up. It's working. We're getting back relevant results. Um, so I like that. I like the way that that's heading now. Um, and we're just returning JSON here. And let's do, I don't remember this, but rather than looking it up, let's just ask and see what happens. I know we can use the limit method, but I kind of want to flex the AI and see what we've got. It did use the search tool. That is, I'm just so tickled. Like, this is, I love it. Like, getting to see, because this is, the LLM has free choice whether to use these tools or not use these tools. The search is pretty generic, and I think it's going to use it more often than not. And we can actually see a little bit more detail. Let's launch my PHP debugging tool. So I use Bugregator as my debugging tool of choice. It's this whole suite of tools that are available. We have here, I can probably just pop this open, go over to Bugregator. So Bugregator is super cool. I run it as a Docker container, and the script that I just ran starts it up, pops open a browser window. But what Bugregator can do is it can capture Sentry calls if you configure it to push to Bugregator. It's got a profiler. You can do SMTP. You can capture all your HTTP dumps, your var dumps. You can set it as you can set a monologue driver to push to Bugregator. And we also have like ray dumps, which is one of my like number one use cases. I don't use the ray UI, I use Bugregator. And so let's get back to our app, and what we can do is let's just rerun this again, and I'll show you what pops up in Bugregator. Let's go take a look at one last thing though. Cool. So as part of Sparkle, I have some observation drivers built in so we can kind of see what's happening behind the scenes. I have a log driver, I have a ray driver, and I want to say I have a third, but maybe I don't. But this is all pluggable, so anybody can build drivers for all of these. This one's like super simple. The ray driver is just an invocable driver that takes an event and some attributes. Actually, I think if we look, yeah, so I have like a log driver and the ray driver, just those two. So it's super easy to build and extend to these. You could do a monologue driver if you want. So we have like ray calls for the different observation events. So if we go back here, and we'll just replay this. So use take, used tool Laravel expertise, Laravel basics. So I don't think it used any tools. I think it just used, so we see here that it didn't use the search tool at all. It just went off of its own knowledge. And so it's saying that it used its Laravel expertise tool, which is actually an attribute that I have built into the prompt. So this is not like, this is an example of like just prompt engineering not being like specific enough. And what I really need to do is I need to like program a way for it to like respond with a message saying that like it's using this tool. I can take that up later on. I'll replay this message so we can see what the observations look like. So we can see that Sparkle server received a message. We have a little bit of debugging information here that like the total message count was 1, that it was GPT-4, that it was a streaming type, and then here we can see that we called the tool search, the arguments, which is like the search query, and the results, which is like this huge blob of JSON that we're returning out of the tool. So I don't think we need to return this like giant blob of all these results back. I think we can probably just limit it to a couple. So we can, if we go to our search tool, I'm just gonna refire this. We can watch the results come through. Ooh, all right. So I blew out my quota for OpenAI. Working on this the last few days. I'm gonna pop into another monitor and go just replenish my OpenAI account. Yeah, not fun having that happen on stream because it'll take a little while for this to apply to my account. So we'll probably just take a break and go dive into starting to drive out Anthropic, like our Anthropic driver. Yeah, super fun stream content. Me paying bills. All right, while that's all working, we will just take a chilling break on this. I was just tooling around with this anyways. I'm not looking to get anything like functionally significant out of this. So let's just go ahead and dive into this. I have some environment variables in this file that I updated so that we can do some testing just through Workbench. Laravel Workbench and TestBench is a suite of tools to help with package development, like Laravel package development, by being able to like spin up a whole app behind the scenes. Unfortunately, it doesn't inherit environment variables when it starts up a local server. So if we run like cserve, like which is just composer serve, it starts up the Workbench server. The problem is it doesn't automatically inherit environment variables when we start it up, so we actually have to define them in the TestBench config, which doesn't feel great because I've definitely accidentally committed my keys and had to roll them several times. So definitely that might be something that I might go look to try to contribute back to the framework. But yeah, we got to define those in the TestBench config. So let's just clear everything out and go take a look at the OpenAPI provider and just kind of refresh ourselves with what we're doing here. Actually, we should probably just go look at the provider contract. We have a few methods here as part of our abstraction. We have a method to take in messages. We have a way to pass in options. We have a way to set our model. And the way that this all works is if we look at the Sparkle service provider, we actually are utilizing a piece of functionality straight out of the Laravel framework. So very similar to how Laravel manages and configures drivers for like cache and session, we're utilizing that exact same functionality in like a manager pattern to be able to define our different our different providers. So if we take a look at like our provider manager, we have a way to set our default driver, which for right now is OpenAI. Once I publish everything and have Anthropic, I'm probably going to default it over to the Anthropic driver because that's just my preference. This is an opinionated package. You can always set the driver to, like, the provider to whatever you want, but I'll kind of probably default this to whatever my preference is. And then we'll see here that we are just like, we have a way to create our OpenAI driver, and the method name is all driven off of the manager class, which does come from Illuminate support. So this comes right out of the Laravel framework, and it's the exact same way that cache is configured. And so there is a method in here to create new instances of the drivers. It looks for a method that's like create Studley case driver name, and that's where we get the create OpenAI driver. So there's a whole bunch of like just magic happening behind the scenes to set up these drivers. So if we look at provider manager, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new protected function. You know what? This snippet double indents. So we're gonna, this is how you get your NeoVim config like super dialed in. You see something that's just like causing you a little pain, you can just go in and fix it. I don't need spelling, I need snippets. If you look at PHP, let's just apply some formatting, which just like applies prettier, and let's look for protected. Oops. I think we deleted one too many spaces. Nope, we were actually spot on. Oh, do we have multiples defined? Nope. Oh, this just became kind of a pain. So we're just not going to deal with it right now. And all right, so we've got, we'll define this new method, and now we got to go create a new driver. So we've got providers, we'll create a new all right, and so we're going to say that this all right, and let's see what this is mad about. All right, so the only two, because we're extending the provider class, which is just provider class just has a bunch of, like, it defines a bunch of pieces of the contract in a way that they just are like setting them as class level variables, which is just how I'm doing it right now. So let's just implement these real quick. Chat stream. All right. And so we'll just leave these for now, and then we can go back to provider manager, and we'll just return and we will pass in the API key. We're going to say that this returns a new I don't know why this is namespace like that. So we'll just fix that. Great. So in our constructor, we know that we're getting the, I think we can just, all right, so we've got our API key. We've got our two methods that like we have to make sure are defined on our provider class per our contract, our chat stream. And I know that these are going to be throwing errors for a minute. That's fine. Let's go take a look at our OpenAI provider. All right. So this gives me a little bit of inspiration moving towards what we're going to do. So we can create a client. We're just going to use HTTP for this, and then we know we're going to be posting. So let's go take a look at our Claude docs. Let's take a look at the API reference. So we know that this is you know what? Let's use. Let's see. Are we back up and running? We're back up and running. All right, cool. Let's not do that. We're going to create a new message. Say, I know I could probably use something like CoPilot for this, but I don't have CoPilot configured. I like once they went paid, I was just I wasn't into it, so I left that behind. If I go back to see that this tool output is just like random. If I do go back to VS Code, I'll probably use, there's like a couple different plugins that you can use to like enable very like a Copilot similar experience. I forgot what it's called, but one of my favorite things about it is it allows you to use local models for code completion, which is great if you're in a like corporate environment or even in a private environment where you don't want to expose your code to a third-party provider. You could fire up Olama, fire up one of your models of choice, and then have that be your Copilot for you. I'll shill for Alani all day long. Good stuff. All right. So we have our client, though I don't think we need get messages, but all right, cool. So we're gonna go update the config because we know that we're gonna need this. So as soon as I call it in the manager class, I just want to go ahead and define that in the config so I don't lose sight of it. All right. So we've got the headers with the API key, versions. Okay, we're gonna want to add version to the configuration. Looks like this is the latest. So we'll go ahead and default it to the latest. And then go ahead and add all right, so we've got that all configured. Do they have a PHP one? They don't have a PHP client. I mean, that's something maybe we could put together. I have a very sneaky suspicion, considering that Grok and Olama have also just gone ahead and adopted the OpenAI API spec. I have a sneaky suspicion that Anthropic may also do that. However, they're their own very independent company and they're very comfortable with doing things their own way. So there's a strong possibility that they won't do that either. But I have a sneaky suspicion that we're like a lot of places are starting to kind of unify around the OpenAPI. The OpenAI. I also do a lot of work with OpenAI or OpenAPI. So sorry, I'll probably missay that many times. But I have a sneaky suspicion that there's just going to be a lot of unification around that spec. It's a great API spec. I don't see why to not use it. It does seem pretty universal. So I have a sneaky suspicion that we may just be able to adopt an OpenAI client for Anthropic at some point in the future. Let's take a look at their messages API. Great. We're going to awesome. So we are taking in, I think this is pretty straightforward. So post to V1 messages. So this is going to be their like chat completion endpoint. They do have a like text completions endpoint, but you'll see that this is legacy. OpenAI also depreciated their completion endpoint just for chat endpoints. So if you need completion, you basically send a single message chat call, and you'll get your response back for completion. So yeah, so they've got like migrating from text completions. They've got streaming, which is great because we're going to implement the chat stream as well. So we've got the Anthropic version, our API key. We're going to need to pass in the model as well. Model tokens, max tokens, and messages. So if we go and take a look at what we've done with the OpenAI provider is we made this like build. We're going to steal some patterns here. We have the build request. Oh wow, I cannot talk. The build request method that just kind of like handles building a bunch of this stuff up. We're just gonna steal that. And we have messages, tools, we'll handle that later. They don't support top P, they don't support temperature, they do support max tokens. And we've defaulted that to 1024. And we are also going to pass in the model, and that all comes from extending the provider class, which pushes all of these options. It allows us to like push all of the configuration options as variables. We have like with options message. All right. Formatted messages we are going to steal formatted messages as well. Because what this does is it takes our abstract message and then reformats it as role and content, which let me just double check. Role and content, the same thing. All right, so messages, max tokens. Awesome. So I think we just run with this client. And then we can let's take a look at PHP Stand and see if we've done anything crazy. All right, so we've got no return types, but like anything we can do about based on where we're at. Client doesn't have a return type. What does this return? Pending request. Let's check PHP Stand. We should have 2. Okay, cool. I just like to check PHP Stand like as we go because I have it set at 8. I normally have projects set at 6 or 7, but I wanted to, since we're building this from scratch, I wanted to crank it up to 8 right out of the gate. And with that, I think it can get away from you kind of quickly. So I like to check on it frequently to make sure that we're not getting ourselves we're not digging ourselves into a hole or anything. All right, so we know that the endpoint is, I think, V1 messages. I think we can set on our client. I don't know if we need to pass slashes in there. I guess we can. Let's take a look. So they trim the trailing slash, they add a forward slash. So I think we can just do that. And then we can come in here. I wonder if that's going to work. Here, let's just do this. We can just do that so we can stop getting yelled at, because we're just going to work on chat first. Yo, what's up? Welcome to the stream. All right, so chat, we need to return a message. Except I overflowed my paste buffer. Here we go. Ooh, thanks for the call out. That was definitely a typo. I keep very carefully checking myself. Thank you for the catch there. All right, cool. Let's do this then. So we're going to go in and just set this. So that's a little helper script that I built using Charm CLI's Skate library, which is an amazing SKATE. It's a great library for dealing with secrets in your own command line. And then I just built a little script on top of that will take those and give me the option to expose them as environment variables. So we can hop back in and we can set this to as well to just default. So what I want to do here is I'm going to use the test to drive some of this stuff out. Like actually, we'll send real requests here for a little bit. Cool. We'll run the test, just make sure we're kind of getting the right thing that we expect, right? We didn't make any assertions. That's fine. Let's take a look at the OpenAI test. We're going to steal some stuff from here. So like we've like got that all mocked out thanks to Nuno and the OpenAI PHP team for like really making it easy to test using the OpenAI client. We're going to build our own for Anthropic. We actually might even go back and build our own for OpenAI just because we're not using all of that package. We're just using the completions endpoint, like the chat completions endpoint. So we might make something a little bit more simple. So we're going to build up the client. I think, I can't remember if set client's part of the contract or not, but we're going to grab this because we like copying and pasting. I guess let's resolve this out of the manager because we've already got that configured. So we can just say, oh, do I have a way to pull that out? Let's go look. I don't. So we'll just do that anyway. We'll grab because we typoed it and then imported it everywhere. We'll go back to our test case. We'll also add this in. All right, so let's see where we are. We've grabbed the API key, the config version, and what are we mad about here? So it's not pulling in config options. Oh, I see why. All right, dope. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we've got a typo in our V1 here. Hopefully this is still legible. I'm going to shrink it a little bit so I can go side by side. Oh, could not resolve host. Duh. You know, it helps if you put in the whole base URL. Input does not match the expected shape. All right, that's fine. We're getting somewhere. Hey, we're actually connecting to Anthropic. We're definitely getting somewhere. So let's take a look at posting to the messages. Oh, you know what? Helps to also send along all the request data. Let's take a look at the build request. We're not sending messages because we're not sending messages. And if we look up here, we have, so we're using Pest to run all of our tests because Pest is awesome. So we're using Pest to run our tests, and before each, we're just adding to the test class some messages so that we can take a look and test things. The reason why we're setting this as the base message is because this will work for us testing just the chat request and the streaming chat request, but then this will also work for us when we do our test for using tools, and we'll define like a fake weather tool, and then this message will like work for everything. Model not found GPT-4. Right, it won't find GPT-4. So that's good. We're kind of stepping through this a little bit. Let's take a look at their models. I know what I want to use. I'm pretty sure I have it right, but I want to use Sonnet. Claude Sonnet 3.5, which is exactly what we want to use. Which is like their latest model. Oh, hey, here we go. Oh, so we are getting back what we expected. Well, now we're getting back what we expected, right? So our API response is JSON, as we have the message ID, the type, the role, the model that we're using, the context, or the content. Right, great. Yeah. This should be coming back saying that doesn't have real-time weather information because we don't have any tools. The stop reason is end turn in our usage stats. So like, yeah, this is awesome. So right now we're connected to OpenAI, or not Open. We're connected to Anthropic. So let's take a look back at the provider. So we're just dumping this JSON. Let's go take a look at what we're doing for the OpenAI provider. Right, so we're looking for the finish reason. We're not going to worry about tool calls. If we run our test again, our new stop underscore reason is end turn. So instead of finish reason, it's not even part of geez. I'm gonna blow like my Anthropic credits. Here, I'm gonna close. I just configured float term to run all this stuff, so like I'm still getting used to like what I have different key maps mapped to and like what I can do. So it's just part of the top level message that we have, right? So contents where the message is nested. So this is a top level like stop reason and turn. So end underscore turn. We have role. And then we have I know another way we can do this to get float term to like be more persistent, so we don't have to keep running this test over and over again. But I don't really want to deal with that. All right, so it's just text. All right. All right. Now, if we go back to our Anthropic test, our response now should be our message abstraction. And that's what we've got. We've got our message abstraction. We've got our role of assistant. We've got the content. This is exactly what we were hoping to look for. Now, what we'll do, we're gonna re-debug this. I want to add in some metadata. So here's what we'll do. All right, we can pass in some extra. We'll pass in All right, and the reason why we're doing that is because when I go back to, like, the reason why we're adding them together instead of specifying the input tokens and the output tokens is, like, this is supposed to be kind of like a generic abstraction, and I know that I don't think that OpenAI returns both of those, so, like, we can return the usage token, like, total token amount. You know what? We're just not going to bother with this right now because, like, I haven't implemented anything for OpenAI, and part of the reason why we're implementing Anthropic now is so that we have both OpenAI and something totally different, like an API that's totally different, like Anthropic's, so that we have like a really we can make sure that like our final API and all of our abstractions have the minimal amount of churn once we decide to publish things. So let's just make sure we're back to where we thought we were. Great. And then cool, we got no PHP Stand errors. Let's test run our whole test suite. Cool. So we're getting like a pretty big response back by like basically having it return an error response. So I don't want to send this weather forecast message anymore for just chat because we're going to have to like mock out this big, huge response, and I'd rather do something a little different. So we can do something a little bit more straightforward. Great. We have a much more straightforward response. So we'll just grab that. All right, so we're gonna just make this expectation. We're gonna set it ahead of time that like we know that this is what we're gonna want to expect is a like mocked response back. So I don't remember the API for this, so we'll go back here and say we'll let it keep its context. We'll go to our provider. We'll get it to do a little work for us. Like it's fun using Sparkle to build Sparkle. I don't know. It's just super amusing to me. We'll see what it comes back with. All right, fair enough. Yeah, this is great. Yep, using Sparkle to build Sparkle. I love it. See, and like, easy enough to go to the docs, but like, I don't know, this is nice. Faking responses. Great. Great. Yeah, this all looks correct. One of the tools that I really want to build is to like not only take the search functionality where it like searches the SERP API to get results back, but I also want it then to go and crawl maybe the first 3 results and then like go scrape that content and be able to use that content as context to generate its answer. Like that'd be pretty dope. All right. I think we can get away with doing this. I think we also have is that chainable? No. All right, so we want to let's take a look at these docs one more time. Prevent stray request. So we don't need this to be a function. It could just be an array. The value is the response. All right. Few things that I want to just do real quick. Yeah, that should be fine. Hey, sick. All right, cool. So we've got, let's see what time it is. How long have we been going? Going for an hour 20. Maybe we'll take a crack at streaming, the streaming endpoint. That definitely gets a little more complex. So, I think we're at a pretty good stopping point, so I'll probably end it here, and then tomorrow we can pick up doing the streaming endpoint, because the streaming endpoint, let me show you an example of what um, the streaming response looks like from OpenAI. What we get is server sent events. Um, I didn't really know anything about server sent events. Uh, hey, what's up, Edwin? Um, I did not really know anything about server sent events up until dealing with actually looking at the chat stream, and that's actually what like the end result of the open web UI, like that's actually what this consumes, is the server sent events. So open web UI takes, like, that's how we get the streaming responses. And so actually, like, this is what they look like coming in. And if we look at the Sparkle server controller, we have the stream method that more or less like rebuilds the server sent event stream. So like we intercept it, and then that allows us to do things with our agent, like call tools, then re-interface with the language, like the LLM, and then take those tool results and then like stream all of that back out. So we actually have to like rebuild that stream as part of our response from Sparkle server when the API request is streaming. So like this is what they look like. So it's definitely a little bit more complex to deal with. And so being that we're at an hour 20, I think this is going to be a great thing to pick up tomorrow. So yeah, we've got chat requests. We got it can send streaming chats, and then let's see, test the whole file. Awesome. Okay, that's going to be PHP Stand doesn't really play well with pest test. At least maybe there's a plugin or something. But let's cool. So our whole project, we're PHP Stand issue free. All of our tests continue to pass, and we've got the Anthropic provider squared away. So I think that was a pretty productive day. We did a little bit of work on our other tool. So yeah, super fun stream today. I want to give a massive shout out to PHP Architect for co-hosting the stream today. They run the PHP Tech Conference, and they just recently opened their call for presentations. So if you have talk ideas, I spoke at PHP Tech last year on LLMs and a little bit of Sparkle. I'm a big fan of that conference. It was awesome. I had a ton of fun. So highly recommend you either grab some tickets and attend the conference, or if you're into presenting or talking and have some ideas, definitely put something together, submit to their call to presenters. I know I've got some stuff that I want to present this next year, so hopefully I'll be speaking there. If not, I can almost guarantee that I will be attending. So thank you so much to PHP Architect for co-hosting the stream today. And tomorrow we'll pick up where we left off and dive into the streaming responses from Anthropic. And I think we'll do streaming responses, and then after that we'll pick up like on function calling and tool use. So thank you so much for everybody who followed along today. I'm going to shill a little bit for myself. I did set up a GitHub sponsorship. I would love and appreciate any support there. That would be just the absolute coolest. I don't know if y'all know, but I got laid off last Thursday. That's kind of part of why I'm streaming. I've got a lot of extra time on my hands. So anything helps, goes a long way. Massively appreciate y'all. So we'll be back tomorrow, probably back around 1 o'clock. We'll see what time. We're fluctuating a little bit as we get into it, but even after I resolve whatever my unemployment situation, I definitely plan on continuing to stream because this is a ton of fun for me. It's super productive. I hope it's fun for you. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.